Comics Coast to Coast is brought to you by patrons like you. If you'd like to help the show out, head on over to patreon.com/comicsc2c and show us a little bit of your love. Your sweet, sweet love. I mean, like $1 worth of love. And we'll take that love and hug it and squeeze it and make it do podcast things that you'll enjoy. So come on, see what happens.
This is Comics Coast to Coast.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Dunaway, and you're listening to Comics Coast to Coast, episode 327, the Nick Sharma interview. But before we talk to Nick, I'm going to bring in my special co-host, Joel Duggan of Star-Crossed Online and Forge Publishing. Joel, how are you?
Hello, sir. I'm doing fantastic. It is springtime.
I'm going to argue that, but we don't talk about weather here on the show. So we're going
to... On the calendar, it's spring.
Okay. Oh, so you're talking calendar, not weather. Perfect.
Not weather. No. I'm in Canada. It's not spring weather here. What are you talking about?
Oh.
No, it's spring. It's springtime. It's the time of year.
Did you know this week was my birthday?
I did.
Did you send me?
I did. I wish you happy birthday 2 days ahead of time because I got it wrong. I wish you happy birthday on your birthday, and then I said happy belated earlier in the pre-show. I covered all of the birthday bases.
Perfect. Speaking of birthday boys, one more day before Matthew Ducharme is 1 year older and full of cake. Matt, welcome to the show. Oh yeah. He is here. And so any plans? Gonna do something fun?
I am currently working my butt off because I have 3 client projects happening at the same time.
Right. I'm down with that. Nothing better than working through your birthday. Do it. Now with us tonight, no further delay, it is Nick Sharma. How are you, good sir?
I am very good. I'm very excited to talk to all of you.
We are so excited to talk to you. We've known about this interview for a couple of weeks now, and I've been occasionally flipping over to your Instagram site and watching what you're doing, and it's been great. By the way, dear listener, head on over to nicksharma.net. Now, if you're American like me, you're going to spell that wrong. So it is nicksharma.net. Also can follow you on Instagram at Mr. Nick Sharma, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So tune into that. Now, if you're in the chat room on Twitch, we're broadcasting live here on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern. Hi, Phil Rude. Hi, Tondagosa. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Hugo. Who am I missing? Where'd you go, Bacon? All right. There she is. Zoe loves brings bacon. So they're here with us as well. They'll probably be asking some questions, hopefully, in just a little bit, as well as the questions we're going to ask you. So, Nick, I'm going to ask the question we usually ask, which is, hey, Nick, who are you and what do you do?
So I am Nick Sharma, as everybody knows by now, and I'm a professional illustrator. And I've been working on my book since the past 2 years, along with other couple of freelance projects that I keep taking. And I am new to United States. Like I came here in 2013.
Wow.
So I'm kind of a halfway foreigner here.
Well, I'll tell you, you would not know it because your English sounds like the first language. So that's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your...
If you're from India, English is almost your first language.
So wait, you know what? I'm going to show my ignorance and admit that what's the native language? It's not Indian, is it? Is that the classification?
No, it's so the native language in India, like as government declared, is Hindi.
Hindi. That's right.
So that's the basic language that everybody's supposed to be communicating in, right? But funny enough, the people in India mostly communicate in English.
Interesting.
Especially if you're from other places. So if you go towards the south of India, the only way you can talk to them is in English, not in Hindi.
Wow, that's not what I expected at all. That is wild. So
yeah,
do you
think
right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's because of so much of our culture is leaked around the world, like entertainment, and I'm sure you got a lot of foreigners, probably Americans in India hanging out, doing their thing?
I personally think it's no, actually it's true that it's basically because it was a British colony, right?
Right.
So so basically the way everyone in different parts of India, because otherwise every part of India is so different from the other part. There are like 18 languages that people speak all throughout India, like major ones. These are just the major ones.
Right.
Wow.
And yeah, it's very like disconnected in terms of, what do you say, culture, but there is a lot of unity in India in general. But culturally, it's like very different from one part to another. So the only thing that ties it all together kind of is English, which is funny.
It really is. Joel, you can relate to that because you got the French Canadian side, right?
Me personally, no, but Canada, I mean, French is the, I guess you could say it's the second national language, similar to how Spanish is in the U.S.
Right.
There are some provinces, though, in Canada where French is often put on signs first. Like Quebec and New Brunswick, a lot of times you'll see the French ahead of the English, just because there's so much French, usually Acadian around my parts.
Right.
But Acadian French, you'll see a lot of the signage and different things like that have the French first.
Huh. Interesting. So let's move on to the art. So we did the language. We got that. We got it. But it was fun. It was mostly for. It was mostly
you don't
for
have
my
to worry about being ignorant. Like with me, it's totally fine. Like I didn't know who Martin Luther was until I came to America. So don't worry about it. So.
All right. So the most recent project that you're working on, that you've been working on for the last couple of years, is Bubbles and Shakes. So tell us a little bit about this project.
So this started out as a storybook that I was going to do, and it is still a storybook, but I converted it into a more friendly children's book. So it's a really short book. Like it has around let's say 45 pages.
Right.
And it's a short story based on this really nice quote that I wrote. I didn't write it. I heard about it. It's a quote from Seneca, where he says, "We suffer more in imagination than reality."
Oh.
And I thought, wow, this is really true. Like in real life, there is nothing externally happening to us, but the fact that we take on other people's fears, other people's insecurities, or what we understand of the world through our parents or anybody, that's what really makes us scared.
That's a good point. That's deep. because the artwork you have to accompany that is very charming, and it's like you said, it may be aimed at kids, but only in the fact that it's very colorful and playful. There's nothing simplistic about your art style. It's very I really like what you got going, and it's kind of, I haven't been able to actually figure out exactly what it reminds me of, which is great. It looks familiar though, but I can't place my finger on it. So that's always a good sign, in my opinion. Joel, do you?
Oh, that's
yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I'm really happy that you guys like it, and I'm also glad that so many people have told me that it's nice and everything. And I always try to keep things a little simple, as far as there is, but I feel like there is very, to be honest, there's very obvious influences in my art related to very old classic Disney that used to come on TV that I used to see. There's a slight influence of that, and there is mixed with a lot of other artists that I saw along the way. But when going back to Bubbles and Shakes, like this story took me so much time because I wanted to get this idea across, not in a deep sense, but in a very entertaining sense. Like when you read it first, you rather feel entertained. Like, oh my God, this is a very entertaining story. I enjoyed it. But maybe when you read it again or later in your life, you might get different meanings out of this particular book. So I tried to do that, and trust me, to write 150 words, it took me 2 years. Because I had to cut short. I have to make it shorter, make it more entertaining, because you don't want to bore kids. Kids get bored really quickly. If they don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah, this is true. It takes a lot. However, you would think that nature would be boring, but you had mentioned in your About Me page that when you were a kid, in India, some of the things that made you realize there's magic in the world was watching birds clean their wings for hours. So it's like it didn't bore you to even at that young age to see what nature had, what the beauty and the magic of nature in animals. So that I think that speaks to your passion and love for the animal kingdom as it relates to that and how it relates to human behavior and all this stuff you've been picking up along the way throughout your life. I think you've really found a way to express that in your book, and I've really enjoyed the book. I've just seen the little snaps and the pictures you've shown us so far. When can I get my hands on the official book?
All right, so this book is like done. I finished it. I actually had a little trip to India in like February, but before that I had finished the book and I had given it to my printing team, and they are like ready with I think they're going to be ready with the prints in 2 months. I just did its hard copy proof, like I approved it. And I think it's ready to go within 2.5 months. It should be available on my website. It should be available on the Amazon.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Yeah, so I'm also excited. So I actually don't know how it's going to be because it took me quite a while to write this. I hope I didn't mess up.
I'm going to ask you a tough question. It's going to require you to regress to your childhood. I want you to tell us about your childhood in India and how it shaped your art and storytelling. Have you thought about that much? It's okay if you haven't.
I have. I really think about it every now and then. I feel like being from that place, what happens is India is a very there is like when you say like there is like it's very close to nature. Like you have to. I think I learned a lot from the people who are around me. I had a lot of interesting characters around me growing up.
Right. And
I also got hands-on with a lot of animals that roam around in India at times. So you take it as a granted part of life that, this is it. We and animals live together. So I mean, that also shapes you that I used to see personalities of animals in people, and people appear to be like certain animals at times, like just by their look or the way they behave. Some people are really angry. Some people are really like over happy at times. So in India also, like you understand how relationships are kind of different from how relationships work in, let's say, the Western side of the world.
Right.
I mean, it's different in terms of conduct, but I feel like as I've lived here longer for 4 or 5 years, I feel like at the core, all humans are the same. We all respond to the exact same things. But culturally, it is very different, and that shapes in the Indian world quite different from the Western world. And you get unique stories out of that growing up. I had really interesting experiences in childhood. Like for example, that I could not watch any cartoon unless or until I finished my homework.
Yes. That is true the world around.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. And also at the same time, you could not imagine this being a career. Like when you're growing up in India, you're always struggling to be good at sciences, right? So you got to do school really well, and you have to be good at studies. Drawing was always seen as this leisurely activity that you do on the side, and nobody will ever hope that you become an artist.
That's amazing to me because I'm fully aware of some renaissances from Indian art. I'm fully aware of that in the history of India. And I just assumed that was always just encouraged in that society. I thought America was the only crap place that discouraged, It's like, no, go learn to shoot a gun. Don't learn how to draw. Gotta learn how to hunt. But so apparently it's also worldwide. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, It's more in India. These are more like cultural struggles, like
Right.
if we go too deep into the cultural part, it's like everywhere you see like people are fighting very basic battles still, which
Right.
Western side of the world has fought already. Like in the 60s and 70s, the Western world has fought really major human right wars, and in India people are still kind of struggling with it a little bit. And now it's really good actually. Since the time I left, I feel like there's been a lot of progress over there this time, and I've been
Right. There has been,
Yeah.
and it's just worldwide. We've made a lot of progress, I think, in that
Yeah.
area, thanks to the internet, which we would never be able
it's
to do
really
this.
connected. Really thanks to the internet. It's so connected now. The world is really connected.
Right. Okay.
Were there any local artists in either your town, city, or even just in India in general that were influencing you when you grew up?
Oh yes, yeah. There were. There was this person. I don't know if you're aware. Abhishek Singh is really prominent in India for his artworks on gods and goddesses and mythology. And his artwork is really good. And I was really influenced by his work too. And there was another comic book artist his name is Mukesh Singh. So in India, you don't get to meet artists just like that because they are not just around. You can't just go. So I would go and travel to them and then ask them questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? But mainly my main source of, like inspiration and stuff would be, I would totally say Disney films were the only thing that I could really get my hands on at times and watch them again and again and figure out how it was done.
Right. And I followed you on Twitter, and I know that recently you often retweet like these old, these little old 2D kind of works they were doing back in the day. Yeah. So beautiful. It's great to go back and see that kind of stuff and remember, oh yeah, everything was done by hand back then.
Yeah.
There are people insane.
It's funny because for me, when I was watching, because in India, everything gets, telecasted, like, let's say like 10, 20 years later.
Right.
For me, all the cartoons that they were showing were Mickey Mouse, Pluto, Donald Duck. I watched them as like, oh my God, they are being done right now. So I had no clue they were that old.
Well, hey, don't feel too bad because during the 70s, during the 60s and 70s, they were feeding us Bugs Bunny, which was cartoons from the 30s and the 40s. So it was happening here too. We thought it was all brand new, and some of it was brand new eventually. But it was interesting times. Hey, chat room question from Stephanie. She wants to know, so does Nick have influence from literature? Literature. Got any books that kind of inspire you along the way?
Do you read?
Right.
You read or only watch entertainment stuff? I'll just say, like, I usually read the only book that I've really followed is Stephen King books and Harry Potter.
Oh, you are my spirit animal because all I read is the same. I'm the same way. I have right now. I'm muddling through Fantastic Beast, which is really a screenplay book. Oh my gosh, it's painful. But I'm trying to get through it, and I'm always reading Stephen King. I just finished the Mercedes Killer series. I don't know if you read those or not. Those are really good.
I read that one, but I find his writing really nice. Like you can really follow the story nicely in his writing. Really intriguing.
He's a
Nick,
great.
do you ever draw any of the characters as you're reading or afterwards?
Yeah, with Harry Potter, I drew like a lot while I was like listening to the story. I try and listen in an audiobook. It's easier for me because I can hear and I can actually draw at the same time. So Harry Potter stuff I would really draw, and I would like try to block the film a little bit and see like how would I imagine this scenario, and I would specially pick those parts which are not actually in the movies and figure out how that would play out if it was a screenplay.
Right.
Very cool.
And draw that.
Mm-hmm. I need to do that more. That's a fascinating twist on it. And I also like the idea of doing the audiobooks because I don't really like to read. No, I'm kidding. I love to read.
With fantasy situations like Harry Potter with, griffins and dragons and things like that. I'm looking over, your art over the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of the animals are obviously earthbound. Have you done any griffins or fantastical creatures or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I did this project for 3D Total. It was a mystical beast, and I actually designed the Phoenix for that. And I was so happy, like, yes, Phoenix, Harry Potter, here I come, kind of thing.
That is great.
But, yeah. So it was a how-to book for that 3D Total did, and they told me that, hey, would you like to do the Phoenix? I was like, sure, of course, I would love to do Phoenix. And so I drew that. I think it's in one of my posts that I did Phoenix.
I gotta check that out. I gotta find that. Okay, so I think the probing question, without asking it directly, is the Jungle Book a popular story in India? We love it here in America.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? Did you grow up on the Jungle Book?
I grew up on American Jungle Book. It is a popular story. Right. But trust me, like when I say that the Jungle Book that all my family knew and I knew was the Disney Jungle Book.
That's great. So Kipling during the late 1800s wrote the Jungle Book, and it took place in the jungles of India, and it was certainly a different tale than the one that we got from Disney. But it was.
I actually tried to read that book. I finished it halfway through. I won't lie, I'm not much of a reader, but. I finished it halfway. It's really hard to follow it because it's written in such a old time, and it's like an old style of storytelling for us new people who swipe through Instagram all the time. It's a little slow.
It is.
It is. So I mean, times change. What can you do?
And I don't even know if it was all just the times, because I've read other books from the time period. If you read some Sherlock Holmes, that stuff still reads like butter, even here today. But Kipling, woohoo.
Yeah, Kipling, plus he writes in very old English, like Tao and this and that.
Right.
So it's a little hard to follow, but I followed halfway through, and then I wanted to continue it, but I didn't really continue it. Well, there's work, but I got through it, and I realized that he was doing something really, really nice over there. I mean, I will not compare it to the Jungle Book that's done by Disney, because they took a completely different take on those characters.
Right.
But I really love it. I mean, I 1976, it was 77, 76 Disney Jungle Book. It was wonderful.
Right.
But when I read the original content, I realized that, wow, they didn't take anything from here except the characters.
Which is all they really wanted. So the Jungle Book, the Disney version, how accurate is that story? Do you feel like you're getting a true flavor of the Indian wilderness in that story?
To be honest, personally, I feel no, because I feel like and I've also like thought about that. What's the reason for it? The reason for it is that those characters that are shown in that book are so inherently, because Kipling lived in India for all his life.
Right.
They're very inherently Indian characters. Like, unless and until you don't understand the core culture in India, you're gonna feel like, these characters, I don't get them. Like in the real Jungle Book, Baloo is a really, really strict teacher to Mowgli, and half the time Mowgli is bruised because Baloo has hit him. I
like Disney's Baloo, not giving a crap.
Yeah, the Disney Baloo is totally like, hey, don't worry, total hipster, he's just fine with his like bare necessities and all that. So that's more. Jungle Book is really dark, actually, as a story. Yeah. It's more closer to Planet of the Apes than it's like closer to the Disney version.
All I gotta know is in both stories they're talking bears. Is that factual? Did that happen? No talking bears?
I mean, in the book, the Mowgli understands the bears, that's for sure. But I don't really know if they're really talking or they're just speaking their mind. It's weird. In the book, you can't tell, but in a movie, when they talk, it's kind of. I mean, in an animation, I'm okay with animals talking because it's an animation, it's a cartoon. But when it gets too realistic and they talk, I get a little like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah. I dig it though. I'm glad we have the story, because it really did. The story itself brought to me India to life, because I didn't know anything about India.
Exactly.
growing up. So
And that's fine. You know, I actually have, like, if you personally ask me, I loved it. I feel like the Disney version was so much fun. I still enjoy it. I still watch it.
Absolutely.
It's actually my favorite. It's actually my favorite Disney film.
Now, yeah,
that's cool. We have one thing in common, that we have this. This is my favorite movie too, Jungle Book.
Nice. Yeah. The animation in it is just so good. I love the. I think that's what was around the time they did the Xerox technique, where they were taking the pencils and using toner to make them darker. So it's got that sketchy quality to it.
Right. Love that.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Especially the acting and the characters are like so much fun. Now it's just like wow. Like, especially Shere Khan, when I remember Shere Khan.
Right.
God, I tried to draw that character so many times.
I'll say I took it. Now, they have a new movie out. Well, it's not new now, but a couple of years ago, there's a live action Jungle Book. Aren't they working on another one too? I think they're working on a second Jungle Book, but I don't know if it's
probably
Disney. Right. But I got I got Mixed Reality, which is VR. For Christmas, and one of the first things I wanted to do, I saw that Disney had a Jungle Book that you could step into, and I stepped into that, and that was just freaky, but it was cool. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
Taking it to the next level, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
You mean like like the animated version, or the CG
live,
one?
The CG stuff.
The
live
live
CG
action
stuff. No,
man, can you imagine walking into a VR animated Disney film?
I don't want that.
That would be awesome.
That scares me.
Take me to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like that. I want that experience. Like that would be.
Oh no, you don't. Oh my God, do you really want the Roger Rabbit experience? I don't think you do.
Have you met his wife?
Yeah, but you also have to take Roger Rabbit with that. You don't just get Jessica Rabbit. You get the whole thing.
I will hang out with both of them.
Unless you play patty cake.
So you mentioned earlier, Nick, that you came to the United States in 2013. So that's really just 5 years ago. You haven't been here that long. When you arrived, was there any struggle with culture or art or work?
Yeah, there have been a lot of struggles just because the world is so different in India. And
Right.
I had too much struggle. Like in the school, I had slight bit of difficulty in understanding at times what the professor is saying. I went to this school, LAFA, Los Angeles Academy of Figurative Art.
Right.
And I had a little bit of difficulty understanding in what they were saying at times. Funny enough, I didn't know how to cross the road here. I didn't know. I almost got into an accident while crossing the road.
What's this guy doing right now? Is he trying to cross the road?
Exactly. I was like, whoa, what does this sign mean? Why is there a hand there? Is the hand calling me, or should I just stop? So I had these like basic struggles, and struggles are mainly different because how relationships work here is very different than India. People are very reliant on one another over there, but here you have to like kind of figure your own stuff out. Even when you go to a store here, you have to figure everything out yourself, where you want to go, which aisle, and everything. In here, you just ask the person, can you get me that, and you get you the stuff. But yeah, it's the struggles in art especially was that I realized that how much work it takes to be good at something, like, because in India people still don't take this profession as seriously.
Right.
So I actually understood that the value of doing hard work in this field also has a lot of payback.
Right.
So I feel very privileged at the same time that I have this opportunity, being from that place, to work in a field like this. So that also like makes me feel really, really good. So those were the struggles that I realized that it's actually an opportunity and a privilege for me to be doing art like that,
Right.
being from that place.
I think privilege is the right word, because you are representing that culture, because you're right. There is a major difference when you go to a store here in the US. Yeah, we're very solo players. Everybody's like, you're on your own. Good luck, buddy. But so we don't always have in our stories, the stories we tell a lot of our characters are independent, and that can be very abrasive in storytelling. And it's great that an artist is able to express, that community and that culture. So it's a real shame that it's not valued higher in India, that art is out there, because it's great when you work in science and technology, and those are all very honorable professions that are needed. But yeah, you also need you need your artist, right?
Right. You do. And I think the problem with India is like it's all economics. Like, good thing I took economics.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so it's all economics, that how this place cannot, like art, I would consider it's on, if there's a pyramid, it's on the upper level of the pyramid. Like, unless or until you've sorted out very basic issues, you can't really think about developing art. You can't start there.
Right.
So yes, at least when I was growing up, it was still struggling with those basic things. So there's no room to nurture artists and art, even though Bollywood managed to do it though really well.
Right.
But otherwise, like in other sections of art, like painting, drawing, and comics and all that, it's not that developed because the economy doesn't allow that to happen. Right.
You said Bollywood. Now,
yeah,
I know what we think about Bollywood in the U.S. and it's a butt of a lot of jokes, but there's some really good, bad entertainment in there too. So what does what does the average person in India think of Bollywood? Do they look at it kind of how do they see it?
Well, I can't say how they see it. I can tell you how I see it.
How do you see it?
I love it, actually. Funny enough, I love Bollywood. I feel like it's one of the more major sources of upliftment and entertainment in a place like India.
Great. Love it.
I'm like the biggest fan of Shah Rukh Khan you'll ever meet, but it's the kind of Bollywood that we see in Western is the major hits. You only see the major.
Right.
You never see the other class. Similarly, like when I was over there, the only movies that I would see that were American, which were really like, oh my God, super hit, like Titanic. I would go see Titanic, but I would never come across a movie like Kramer versus Kramer. I would never come across a movie like that because it's not the movie. So similarly, it just works very similar. With the Bollywood that we know of is very dancing and singing, but there is another Bollywood that's very story based.
I've got to see some of Bollywood that is probably beyond the mainstream, because about 3 months ago, Netflix must have made a deal with somebody, because all of a sudden I was just getting Bollywood left and right, and I indulged in a few shows, and I found some of them to be quite entertaining. I found some of them to be junk, but I found other things to be entertaining. So it's good. Hopefully it'll grow beyond where it's now that we see it in America. Maybe kind of like anime, has its place. Anime, some people hate it, and like my mom, and then some people love it, like my Joel.
Yeah, it's very personal preference. Like, if you ask me, I can watch from a shitty Bollywood movie to a very good Bollywood movie all at once. But because with storytelling, there's always a purpose. They are making it for a certain kind of audiences, and their job is to just entertain these people in whatever way they want to be entertained.
Right. So are there any animated features coming out of Bollywood? Because I've never seen it. But I probably only get what's on Netflix.
I personally have never. There were a few here and there, but I didn't have the patience to watch those.
Well,
so when you're in your studio and you've got a Bollywood animation on in the background and you're working hard on your stuff, Stephanie in the chat wants to know, what is your favorite art medium? What's your favorite way to work?
My favorite, I think I love working with pencils and watercolors, color pencils and watercolor and inks. I really love doing that because it's very hands-on. So I like that. I like using that medium.
Yeah.
Is there any digital manipulation to that after, or are you doing like traditional illustration start to finish right on the paper?
So I start on the paper. I start with an orange pencil because it gives a very warm undertone to the things.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would like ink it with black ink, and then I would put watercolors on it, and I put it layer by layer. So I have this really nice tool that I got when I started doing watercolors. I was not using it, but this tool changed the game. You can use this what do you call this thing? I forgot. Heater. It's like a dryer.
Oh, like a heat gun, maybe?
Yeah, heat.
Dryer?
Yeah.
Like a heat gun. So I use this heat gun. I work layer by layer. So I'll fill one flat layer of watercolor. On top of that, I'll put like simple those simple spotches of these watery watercolors. So it's all, I'm working layer by layers. Simply working layer by layer.
I love the idea of starting with a base of yellow or orange. Excuse me. I've never done that. I've always been in the blue purple range.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try orange.
I did that because the book was really children's booky, so I wanted to make it feel a little warm and inviting. But I work from start to finish all traditional. Only I do the what do you say? Like I just like change the levels and stuff in Photoshop after I'm done.
Makes sense.
Right. So it's almost like how more how a photographer would treat their work in Photoshop than you actually like drawing and changing stuff. Yeah. Very, very cool. I mean, it blows my mind that your stuff is traditional. Like the watercolors are just so good. Like there's so much richness to it. And I mean, the fact that you're working layer by layer like that, I think that's probably what I'm seeing the results of when I kind of deep dive, especially when I see like, you know, a purple panther, you know, in some of your illustrations of it looks like Mowgli and Bagheera, but then you can see your orange undertones in some areas, and it's really, really cool the way that comes out. So aside from say the heat gun, so because I find watercolor like really challenging, is there any kind of technique that you use when you're actually applying the watercolor, or any type of watercolor that you're using that you find has helped you out?
Yeah. This I was trying some other watercolors. They didn't work as well because the pigment is very like dull in many watercolor brands.
Right.
But this one I used like Sennelier. I think it's a French watercolor brand, and Sennelier is really rich in its pigment. So you need to take very little, and you just apply, and the color is super rich. And mainly with the technique I use, I actually learned it by trial and error and watching YouTube videos and how people do watercolors. And you just, it really depends on how much water are you using. So if you want a more, let's say, translucent effect, you tend to use more water. But if you're looking for a very flat result, you use more pigment in watercolors. So it's mainly trial and error. You just like figure it out, like play with the watercolor a lot, and you figure out a few techniques that works for you.
What was it that drew you to watercolor? Was it the look of it, or do you just like working with it?
I chose watercolor for one of the reasons that it's like easy to handle at times, not like in terms of the technical skill, but easy to handle. That you like oil paints get really messy at times, and with watercolors you just need water and your brushes and the little palettes of watercolor. So I used it firstly because of that reason, but then I realized nice spontaneity that you get when you use watercolor. The colors do their own thing and they look really pretty. Like even if you put like 3 strokes of watercolor on a paper, you have a really nice abstract art. You know, just it's just the medium itself is very freeing and very good looking.
Yeah. Do you it's also easy to pack up. Like, I mean, if you can bring your whole thing with you in a really small package. I've been playing around with watercolor pencils. So you put the pigment down from the pencil, and then you use just a water brush to kind of move it around. Have you ever messed around with those kind of things?
Yeah, like the orange pencil I use is actually a watercolor pencil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right,
sometimes I use those to just fill in like a flat, those pencils, and they have a very nice effect if you do that. I mean, it's all experimentation, right? You figure it out along the way that, oh my God, this works for my story and this works for the look that I'm looking for.
Right.
Repeat that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. I love this. Oh, wait. I was trying to pull up your YouTube videos because you also, on your YouTube channel, and how do we get there? Does anybody know the URL to that place? To your YouTube channel? You have some amazing stuff for where you've drawn, right? Where you've drawn along the way, like this meditation, bubbles and shakes.
Yes.
And you've kind of given us a look at your art practice and how you do. And may I say, good job on a really short pencil. Is that its natural form? That 6B really short pencil?
Yeah, I use my pencil until they're on the deathbed.
Well, I love it. And you know, I watched it. It sped up a little bit, but I can tell, unlike, it looks like you're actually thinking while you're drawing. I have a hard time with this. I have a hard time with actually thinking while I'm drawing. I always end up having to sketch all my shapes out ahead of time. And then I get more technical. Then I tighten it up. And then I start thinking. But I'm watching you, and you're using all these great lines of action, and it's just all flowing. And I really dig that part of your style, this flowing style, and just doing it as you go along.
Thank you.
Right. Is that where did you learn your style from? Did you went to college? Or is it something that you've always been practicing? What led you to your current drawing style?
Yeah, it's actually a lot of things. Like, one of the things that I would say, which is very obvious in the drawing, is Disney influence. Right. And there is I was really inspired by the art styles of Milt Kahl and Ward Kimball. I thought Ole Johnson and stuff, they had such an organic, rounded edges style that I really loved that weight that they used to put in their drawings. There's like, the drawing has so much weight and you feel like it's affected by gravity. Right, that one thing I've watched so many times, like all those things, that after a while it automatically gets engraved in your brain that, okay, I'm supposed to kind of get closer to that. And there's a very obvious, I feel like it's a very obvious influence of Chris Sanders in the work. I feel like he's taken that art form of those old guys even forward, and he's made his own style on top of that. And I think this is very cool because this is how things progress. Everyone learns from one another, and they just make something new out of that. And
I was going to say that when I saw your art, I thought of it as a blend between Chris Sanders and Peter DeCeve.
Oh, Peter DeCeve is so good. Yeah, I watched a lot of his work as well. Mainly the thing is, these are like all styles, and underneath all that style is like the main thing that I really well was at the art school, that I learned all these art fundamentals, which are like the base of all. I feel like it's a base of all good art, and not like you can't do without it. I mean, if you can, that's really good. But once you understand these basic techniques of how to perceive something that you're looking at, it's very helpful, because you have names for all these things that you didn't have a name for.
Right. Oh, so
color value art, color value and anatomy especially.
Right. I saw also on your YouTube channel that you were doing some stuff on the iPad Pro. So can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with that so far?
Oh no, iPad Pro is great. It's really great. It's the brushes in there, and the whole experience of it. It looks very traditional when you actually work with it. I find it really quick. You can achieve a lot of quick results in there, and it's a lot of fun actually working in the iPad.
Right. So are you tempted to do more on the iPad and a little less on the traditional media, or are you still mostly a traditional kind of guy?
I don't know. I actually don't know how to categorize this, because I'm really liking the digital medium as well. I don't really like try to stick to one or the other.
Right.
Definitely, I love the working with traditional stuff. And whenever I want a very, what do you say, like a very storybook, children book like feel in the work, I would always go a little traditional.
Right.
But if I'm looking to get some really charming, quick post out of my system, I would totally go for digital.
Interesting.
Tandagosa in the chat would like to know what iPad app you're using.
I'm using Procreate.
Yeah, I figured as much. I've gotten used to recognizing the UI from Procreate when I see people put up videos and different images from it. I've played around with it myself. I've not done anything professionally on it because I don't own an iPad Pro. But Procreate seems to be the favorite of a lot of professional artists for getting work done. I know Nicholas Cole, who was on the show earlier last year, around episode 302, 306, something like that. He has switched and uses his iPad Pro for all of his professional work. Like he doesn't use a computer anymore. He uses his iPad Pro. What? Do you ever see yourself making the switch, or are you still dependent on? I mean, I know you work mostly like really traditionally on paper, but for your digital work, do you think you would move entirely to an iPad?
I think so, because it's really convenient. It's small. You can take it anywhere. You can work anywhere you want. And its brushes and its tool are really, really, like, they're as close to traditional as they can get. Like, they're really good.
Right. Yeah, nothing reminds me of how much I love digital than when I realize I'm out of a particular material. Like when I'm like, oh no, I'm out of Bristol board. What will I do? I know.
No, digital is a really quick way to achieve the result. And I mean, I personally don't have a preference, but it's really convenient.
Right.
Do you ever find yourself getting caught in that digital trap of fine-tuning details that you would never have the opportunity to work on in traditional, because you can zoom in and you can kind of noodle and get caught up in fixing things like that?
Yeah, it happened initially when I started.
Right.
When I started using it, I was like, "Oh, I can make this line really quick and nice. Let's just do that." You lose the point that this is not going to help you.
None.
Yeah, well, there's a certain balance, right, where you're like, okay, well, I have the ability digitally to make this as perfect as my brain wants it to be. But then you have to think, okay, well, I don't have 14 hours today to do that.
Right.
when you're inking on and drawing on paper, like, you've only got as long as it takes. You can't really change much once it's done. So you can ink and do something in an hour and a half, give or take. And I find that I'm still drawing a lot of traditional stuff because I find I get caught in that digital trap of making things perfect when chances are someone's not going to notice.
Right. Yeah, it's mainly like about if you get the overall shapes very appealing, you don't necessarily have to work in the details too much.
Makes me hurt just thinking about it. iPad Pro, so
no, I mean it's funny enough, quicker way of getting something really appealing out there.
Right. It's a true story. Hey, we're getting to the end of the show here, and I don't know if it's something you want to talk about, but last year you posted some storyboards for a story called Hatched. Is that something that you're currently still working on, or did you just kind of do the storyboard and going to kind of get back to it later?
I just did it because I had this little story idea, and plus, actually, I personally did it because I want to shift a little bit more into story than illustration. So basically, I'm trying to learn the skills of storytelling more, like storyboarding and all that. So I wanted to try that very medium.
Right.
And I had then I made a whole story around it because I made up these two characters, which is a girl and her cat, and what they regularly do in a jungle when they're or when they're hunting for food. Like how would that turn out, and what's their relationship in general. So I just did that board just as an exercise to learn a little bit about how to tell a story in a cinematic sense.
Right. Well, it got me pretty excited. So I'm just saying, don't forget about it. It's there.
Yeah, definitely. I would always rework on these because you can always craft the story better.
Right. Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. And so, are you ever looking to get beyond the storyboarding and do full animation, or is that just a little too far?
Full animation.
Right.
You mean like 2D animation? Or
yeah,
3D?
2D animation going all the way, man. Just 24 frames per second, the whole deal.
Boy. Yeah, I'm already sweating. Wait. 24. I wonder how these guys did it back then. Oh my God, so much work. But,
so much work.
It's I don't know. I think I'm very digressing more and more towards understanding the story aspect of things, not so much into like the animation, because animation is at the heart is a good story.
Right.
And so I'm trying to learn those skills. They're like harder than I thought they would be. This is like all your life. You always think it's easy. So I'm just trying to learn that. That's why I'm trying to learn storyboarding and understanding cinema better.
Right. Well, I'd say it looks like you understand it to me. Hey, but what do I know? We're at the end of the show, and we've been doing this a lot lately. We've been getting really interesting guests on with lots to say, and we just don't have enough time to fit it all into 1 hour. But we are going to go ahead and ask Matt to ask the last question ever, and I hope that Nick can come back sometime in the near future, and we can dig a little deeper. So, Matt, go ahead with your question.
So, Nick, you already dropped a couple of names during the course of the show, but are there any other artists that you haven't mentioned yet that our listeners should know about, and where would we find their work?
You mean the artists that I regularly follow or really like their work?
Right, that'd be great.
Yeah, either or both.
Oh, I think I really watch and enjoy work of Ming-Kyu Lee. He's a Disney visual development artist.
All right.
And I just really like his work. It has so much personality and character in there. It's the whole story. When you look at one drawing, you get the whole story behind that drawing.
Right.
So there's him, but and I'm sure everybody knows Chris Sanders already.
Nobody knows anything. That's who we are. We know nothing. So bring it on.
And there are so many. Like when you ask me, I just can't remember anyone. There's so many that are all coming to me all at once. But yeah, I think I instantly remembered Ming-Kyu Lee, and then I like.
Is there anybody on Instagram that you're just amazed by that maybe people haven't heard of? Like somebody just kind of in your peer group.
In my peer group,
right? Anybody out there like that? It's okay if you don't have anybody in your peer group. It's okay, but
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, am I in any?
Right? Did I join a group I'm not aware of? What?
Exactly. I was like, well, what group am I really in? Shit, I'm actually out of the class. I mean, I think I would say Ming-Kyu Lee, and I would say it's there is Shiun Kim.
Okay.
That I really follow is on Instagram, and there's another person. He's in India, and I really adore his work. His name is Anand Radhakrishnan. It's a little hard to.
But say, how do you spell that one? Do you know?
Work is amazing. His work is really beautiful. He's a comic book artist.
All right, he's a comic book artist. All right, I'm trying to find this guy.
It's Anand. I can actually type it
all right.
for you.
Excellent. That'd be great. Put that in the Discord would be probably the easiest way to do it. Let's see. I might have found it. No, I did not.
Okay, I'm typing it for you.
We're always trying to find more talent out there, and we appreciate you sharing who you like for future episodes, and so we can find more stuff. Do you have an ArtStation page? Because I found a Nick Sharma on ArtStation. I don't think that was you.
Oh, really? Sorry, but I what is ArtStation?
It is. It's Joel's favorite place to go.
Oh, okay.
It's similar to, I want to say it's similar to DeviantArt, but with a 2016 professional spin to it. It's a much nicer experience, and there's a lot of professional concept artists and development artists that have pages there and stuff.
Right.
Oh, yes. So sorry. I am so unaware of how the things this time. Okay. I'll actually, I don't know. I'll make one. I'll make one account over there.
You can.
Usually I'm most active on Instagram, actually.
Right. Well, Instagram is the place to be. You've got a pretty good following on Instagram now. So I think that's how we found you. You've got over 14,000 followers on Instagram and at least 5 more since we started the show. So,
oh, that's great. That's really nice.
And it's a lot of fun. If you're not following Nick on Instagram, do go over to Instagram.com/Mr. Mr. Nick Sharma. And you post recently some kind of web comics using some of your characters. I enjoyed those. A little dialogue. Those are fun. And lots of good stuff. I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nick, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I heard Matt popping in there. Did you have a question, Matt?
Nope.
Perfect. You know what? It's time to end this show. Nick,
it was a pleasure being with you guys.
It was absolutely our pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. Where's the best place for people to follow you, Nick? Is it on the Instagram site?
Instagram is there. Facebook is definitely there. These are the most active ones. And website, of course. My book will be available on the website as well.
Right, and we'll make announcements. Keep us in the loop on that. We'll be following you, but if you have any announcements that you want to get out there, let us know, and we'll feed that through the loop. Matter of fact, there was some other Kickstarter stuff that me and Joel had talked about earlier in the week. I think, wasn't there? Didn't we talk about somebody working on a project? Do we need to update?
It was the Etherington brothers, was it not?
It probably was. It was.
I think it might be. Then there's a couple of others. Actually there's been a whole slew of Kickstarter stuff coming out, both from previous guests and from people that I'm just fans of that we have yet to have on the show. And it's been hard to keep up. It's also difficult on the pocketbook. It's like I can't support everybody. I want to. It's like I have to wait until the book's actually out before I can get it.
Right. Excellent. Okay, so Nick, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It was truly a pleasure. And we hope to have you back on after the book launches so you can tell us what a nightmare it was trying to get those out to people. We can't wait to hear that part.
Yep, I'll tell you all about it.
Right? All right, Nick, go enjoy yourself. We're done here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Boop. And there he goes, Nick. It was great. Nick Sharma, check him out on his Instagram site and other places. Joel, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, my friend.
Why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
So there's a couple places. First of all, you can go to starcrossedonline.com and read some new Starcrossed comics. If you'd like to help me make more, you can go to patreon.com/Joel Duggan and support me there and help me make more Starcrossed comics. And last but not least, I don't plug this often enough. I'm trying to get some more listeners on the Citadel Cafe. So I do another podcast every Wednesday night. And if you go to thecitadelcafe.com, you can check that out. I recorded last night, and I will be posting probably the new show tomorrow. And speaking of comics, we talked about the new trailer that dropped for the Avengers Infinity War movie coming out in April. So it was a fun chat. Me and Brock had a good time.
And I guess that was probably too soon for the new Deadpool trailer, right?
Yep. The Deadpool trailer came out today. I have seen it. It is fun. But we recorded ahead of that.
Excellent. Okay, and Matt, how are you?
Doing all right.
How do we get to you, man?
Oh, wow. That sounds shady. But you can check out my work on YouTube. Just do a search for Matt Wad or Matthew Ducharme. Please do not stalk me unless you're looking at my artwork.
Nice. I want to thank the Twitch chat room. Here tonight was Stephanie. She had to go. Hugo, he was here. Phil Rude was back to haunt the chat room. Zoe, she brought some bacon. We thank you for that. Who am I missing? Tondagosa, he was there. He likes 2D animation. It scares him a little. Joel Duggan was in the chat room. That's kind of weird. Cheers, folks. So I just want to mention real quick, we do have a Patreon page. We're trying to get to that next level, better bandwidth, so that we can broadcast everybody. So that goal is going to be $10 per episode. Don't worry, you don't have to foot the whole bill. Just put in $1 if you can. Right now, our current patrons are Jen Lee, Jacob Frink, David Michael, Phil Rude, that guy's amazing, Emil, Mary, who's been around forever. Thank you for supporting the show. And, oh yeah, by the way, Brian Dunaway supports the show. That's right. I put my money where the project is. Next week, Joel, you have us lined up a Gary Lacoste, children's book illustrator, Massachusetts. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's Lacoste or Lacosta, but it's Gary, LACOSTE.com. And he's got some really cool stuff. So check that out between now and next week. And if you got questions, then throw them our way.
And if you'd like to join live in the chat room, it's a good idea because you can get your questions in. Head on over to twitch.tv/Brian Dunaway. Follow me, and you will get alerts letting you know. And by the way, I think Stephanie said that the Twitter alert that's supposed to go out along with the broadcast starting didn't go out. So I think our chat room was a little bit light tonight, but we'll try to fix that for next week. Am I forgetting anything? Is that it?
No, I think you're good.
I think I got it. We did it. So you know what? We'll see you guys next week.
Part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Perfect. Chat room. You're amazing. You're so beautiful. Look at you over there typing your little questions. And they're so active. These people talk. Look at that. Hey, if you're not on the Discord channel, you should. Why? Because you should. Let's see. Where is the invite for our Discord Comics Coast to Coast? Did y'all guys see I put a VIP room in there? For our
the Discord should be. Oh, did you tie that to the Patreon, or is that a free for all?
No, I did. It's okay. So the Discord is free. The VIP room is $1 and up. Patrons,
okay, cool.
And guest. So if you've been a guest on the show, you're in the VIP room. If you're a patron, you're in the VIP room. If you're Joel, you're out of luck.